Welcome to the Network Build Grow podcast, the show where business owners, entrepreneurs, and professionals share their stories, lessons learned, and powerful strategies for building relationships and growing their circle of influence. With Melissa Taylor, your host, each week we'll bring you actionable insights to help you build a better network and a better business. Let's dive in.
Good afternoon. Mr. Randal Doane is here from Cadence Editorial Services. Hello.
Hi, Melissa. Great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's great to see you again. It's been not too long since the last time I saw you, but since we don't live in the same state, we only get to see each other on these little squares.
Sometimes that suffices, but yeah, there's nothing quite like face-to-face in real life.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us first, before we get into some good networking practices, first tell us a little bit about Cadence and also, what you do, but also why. Why is this such an important part of what you do, your life?
Well, let's go back a little ways, since this is kind of a third career of mine. So I left California, go to New York to work in do my graduate studies in sociology. And then when I followed my now wife to Ohio, I thought we were going to end up pursuing the ever elusive joint appointment at some college or university. And then after our daughter was born in 2004, we decided that maybe it was more important that I get to bike to work rather than be tenure track. And so I crossed over to the dark side, as some people say, became an academic dean. And it was a pretty sweet setup. It was an 11-month contract. I had like 45 days of vacation per year, bike to work. And I was better at it than I thought I'd be. I liked it more than I thought I would. And it was great. But after about 10 years, I was like, okay, if it's going to be 11, is it going to be 15? And then if it's going to be 15, is there anything on the other side of that? And so I'd done some freelance work for a couple nonprofits in the Cleveland area. I had written a book about rock and roll. I wrote a fair bit for, front-facing copy for our division and whatnot. And so, that was one of the great things about being an academic too, was, the writing and research and telling stories part. And so I had no interest in, this is 2017 or so. I didn't have a whole lot of interest in commuting to Cleveland 5 days a week. I thought that would just kill my soul. And this was this is just when Zoom is getting a little bit of traction. And so I decided, okay, come my last day here at the office, I'm going to hang up my shingle and become a writer and see how it goes. And so I had no network, no training in business, no training in, copywriting really. So it was pretty raw. And I'd like to think my first year was my redshirt year, considering how many rookie mistakes I made in my second year. But then, things kind of came together in year 3. And so anyways, then I was off and running. And we can come back to that story in a little bit. But so then all of a sudden I was doing all sorts of copy for folks in healthcare writ large, some mental health stuff, and then med tech startups.
How'd you get into healthcare? How'd you get kind of into that specific kind of sweet spot?
Well, it was a nice fit in terms of, all those scientific journal articles. When you're building credibility and, building collateral, white papers and the rest, it's good to, to have somebody who can look that stuff over for you, right? And cite those authoritative journals and footnotes and whatnot. And those are not that different from sociology journals, really. They're all pretty much the same template, the same sort of format of the argument. And so, when that opportunity came up, it's like, oh, I can translate this complex stuff into persuasive copy. So, and I also got involved with the Copywriters Club and Copywriters Underground for training and whatnot. So I'd had some more growth at that point. But I also, I'm in Cleveland, or the Cleveland region, right? We've got the Cleveland Clinic, we've got University Hospitals, we've got mental health. It is a real hotbed for that type of work. So
Yeah, it is. It really is. And making those things understandable to the general public is an art.
It can be tough. It can be tough, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, one of the things I was telling one of the hospitals here that I was working for, it's like, you know, you can keep going, you can keep aiming for that 5th grade reading level, but you're just not going to get there, because when you have to use the word gastroenterology or whatever, like that drives it up. Like there's just no way, you know,
Mhm.
yeah, you can use
Mhm.
all single syllable words after that, but that's going to almost guarantee you're coming in at 7th or 8th grade level. So,
Yeah.
you know, just make sure that it's understandable as best you can, and
Yeah.
don't set bars that nobody can meet, because then people just disregard, you know, the whole
Yep.
goal. So
Yeah, so I know you do a lot of stuff in the healthcare space, in the medical world, but you also do some like ghostwriting and things for other folks too, don't you?
yes, I was doing some ghostwriting for on a subcontracting job on AI and business leadership for a
Mhm.
while, and
Mhm.
certainly ghostwriting is going to be a part of the things I'm doing for client. You know, we're going to, I think, finalize the first SOW this week, and then I've got another prospect. Let's just call it a prospect right now, since we've got the M and mutual NDA in place, but
Yeah.
I haven't seen, you know, payroll
Gotcha.
materials. But there'll
Mhm.
definitely be some work in that regard.
Some ghostwriting.
Yeah. So and that's some really fun stuff. Like one of the first bits of ghostwriting I did was actually the forward for my book on the band The Clash. I was working with the backline roadie, a guy named Barry August, and he is a great writer, but he got called back to England to help out with a sick aunt, and he just like
Mm.
threw all this stuff at me, and he says, "All right, good luck." And so I had enough of a sense of how he wrote based on other things he had posted elsewhere, and then took what I needed from. Anyway, it just all came together. It was so fun to sort of occupy just a different, it was just a different role. I guess
Yeah.
it was a character role, so that was a hoot. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know, when the next time I'll get somebody, dare I say, as fun as a backline roadie, but it's
Right. Yeah,
yeah.
that was fun. So tell me about your book, because I don't think a lot of people know that you have written a book.
So, my wife and I got married in 2001,
Mhm.
which was kind of the height of the Napster era.
Mhm.
Not that I'm going to implicate, are we out of what do they call that? The statutory, wait.
I don't know.
I don't think I can be arrested for this, but so, it's worth it because it's for NBG. So, I came across a file that had, and the name was something like The Clash, NYC, Palladium, WNEW, September 1979. And so I found out that this was the Guns of Brixton bootleg, but I'm not really a live album kind of guy as a rule.
Okay.
But then I ended up like somehow was reminded that it was Paul Simonon. This image behind me is the album cover for London Calling. Paul Simonon smashing his bass on stage. That is supposedly the same night. And so I
Huh.
said, oh, that's interesting. And so then I did a little bit of reading about WNEW, who had done the live simulcast for that. And I found out that WNEW was the last of the freeform FM rock stations in New York. And by that point, freeform rock had turned from avant-garde to a little bit of, dare I say, rear guard. And they had two rules: no punk, no disco, because
Hmm.
neither was artistic enough for
Okay.
their taste. And then I found out that the Clash played two nights at the Palladium on their second trip to New York. They had played one before. And that the other major bands coming over at that time, Joe Jackson, The Police, I know there's one, Elvis Costello, they played the bottom line, which seats 400. And the Clash, or the Palladium, seats 3,000.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I'm looking at this going, okay, The Clash has released one album in the US. It peaked at number 126. So who had the chutzpah to think they could sell 6,000 tickets to a performance or two performances of theirs in New York when they had almost no radio play at all?
Yeah.
So I knew there was a good story there. I found out that one of the guys from WNEW had written a book called The Rise and Fall of FM Radio, and he was now in sports radio. So I emailed him, and this is going back a little ways, and I waited 2 weeks to reply, because that was the general rule. You wouldn't send a second email for at least 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, an hour later, my phone rang, and he says, "Hey, this is Richard Neer. What do you want to talk about?" And I was just like,
Wow.
But I managed to, I guess, fake it till I make it. And that point, and he opened up his Rolodex, gave me a list of names I needed to call. Then we were off and running. And we also have a great archive that's separate from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but it's with one of the community colleges here. And so that was a great resource to have. And yeah, it was a super fun project. And
it sounds like it. But let's go back to the part that you just said. He opened up his Rolodex and gave you all the that's networking.
Of course.
I mean, and of course, Rolodex, of course, dates both of us. But for those of you that are listening, that was actual paper where you actually had like business cards on a little spinny dial thing on your desk. But so let's talk about
I have 2 Rolodexes upstairs. I still use them. They're way faster than looking for it on your phone.
Sometimes it is faster. Yeah. So, okay. So you actually wrote that book because you reached out to somebody and then he networked you to the people that you needed to know.
And then it kept going.
Yeah.
Right. I had some speaking gigs out in California. One of the key players from the New York scene is now in Roxbury, New York, where they run a community radio station. So they had me out and a couple of the key players. So that was a hoot. I got to dance with Meg Griffin, one of my heroes, who's still a DJ on Sirius XM. And there's another guy out there who thinks of my book as his memoir, basically, because he was present at so many of the events.
Yeah.
And we might try to do like a 12-hour podcast on it. We'll see.
That would be fun.
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the power in networking. It's amazing. So the book doesn't actually really align with your job or your business. It was like a passion project almost.
Yeah. And I still write a monthly rock and roll essay. I've got a Substack and it's duplicated on LinkedIn. And so that's just a little reminder, dare I say, of brand identity. And a life coach told me, a couple of years into being back on the market, dare I say, he's like, you should still be writing about rock and roll, even if it's just a Substack, even if it's just, just keep doing that. And then, a much younger colleague of mine who's much more digital savvy due to being a different generation, he's like, you should just post it everywhere. It should be on Medium. It should be on LinkedIn. I'm like, all right. Yeah. Okay.
Well, it sets you apart. It definitely makes you memorable. And that's a big part of, like you said, kind of brand identity, personal branding, that kind of thing. So very cool. Very cool. If you network for your business, you already know follow-up is everything when it comes to growing relationships and driving success. But here's the thing. Most of us want to follow up well. We just get stuck. Staying consistent, keeping it personal, making it stand out, it's hard. That's why I use NetEffect.io. It makes follow-up simple, cuts through all the noise, and helps me stay on top of every relationship without dropping the ball. I never miss a follow-up, and honestly, my network wouldn't be the same without it. So check it out, NetEffect.io. And right now, you can use promo code NBG50 for 50% off of your first month. NetEffect.io, your secret weapon to unforgettable follow-up. Okay, so other than the Rolodex and the book, like how has networking really played a part in your business, in Cadence Editorial Services specifically?
Well, let's do one, I guess, going in. Let's go narrow and deep on this. So there's a law firm in town. They're, I think, one of the top 10 law firms in the country, Squire Patton Boggs. And in 2019, I was attending their last Thursday of the month, basically free info for startups sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have considered myself a startup since I wasn't going to be scaling the way, some of these founders were.
Mm-hmm.
But I was interested in meeting folks and whatnot. And
Mm-hmm.
with a gal who organized it, she is a fellow cyclist. She has an only child who's also a daughter. And so, we really hit it off. And then when the pandemic hit, of course, they tried to do this for a couple weeks or a couple, I guess, months, pardon me, online, but it really wasn't taking, right? It was just not working. And I was in touch with her in August, and she sent me a couple names of people who might be able to use my services.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big believer in the importance of reciprocity. So I sent her a gift certificate for a pair of mountain biking socks.
Hmm.
Darn tough socks, my favorite socks in the world. And I got her a vacation message, and I said, "Oh, well, okay, And then this company I'd done a little bit of work for, one of their founders posted on LinkedIn that he was stepping down. I said, "Oh, okay." And then lo and behold, a week later, they announced that Leah was taking his place as the new president of the company.
Oh, wow.
And so I just said, well, I'm not going to bother Leah for a couple of weeks because I hadn't heard back from her about, the socks. I just wanted
She's
to
a little busy.
she's a little busy, I've got time, no worries. And then a couple weeks went by, and I got a text, and she says, "Hey, can we get on a call?" And I said, "Sure." And she said, "Hey, I've seen you done some work for this company. Will you put a proposal together to help us launch this device next year?" And so I scrambled. I got a design team together, and we got our proposal in the next week. And basically, I parlayed a $25 gift certificate into a six-figure project contract.
Yeah,
And we were off and running.
that's so great.
And so, yeah, I just thought the whole 80% of life is showing up, and 20% of playing nice with others, and 10% is probably personal hygiene or something. I don't know, but
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, it just worked out great, and so that's another place where it was really good to have someone like me who could do a range of things, and they just sent every bit of front-facing copy either to me to create or across my desk to edit.
Yeah.
And they did that for 2 years and then brought me in-house.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so then I had this really, dare I say, crazy idea how easy it was to find angel clients.
Yes,
And
that seemed pretty easy.
yeah, it's so I mean, it took me a little while,
Yeah.
but
But it's interesting because it's not rocket science. I mean, if you stay connected with people and you provide them value and you sent her mountain biking socks. Like that's really paying attention to who they are.
mhm,
And so if you get that chance to be that connected, it can turn into lots of things that we don't know.
right,
We just don't know.
absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do some rapid fire networking questions. You ready?
Okay, I've been up all night thinking about this.
Everybody hates this part. All right. So now you do go to some networking events too. We've been talking about networking as kind of a lifestyle, so to speak. But when you actually go to an event, how do you decide which events you attend?
Well, that's a great question. And one of the things that I'm really interested in is helping grow the startup scene here in Cleveland.
Hmm.
Columbus has done amazing. They're 2 hours south of us, and that's where all the energy is. Not all of it, but a very big share. And I think there's enough happening in Cleveland that if we would, dare I say, pick some sectors
Hmm.
and build critical mass around those sectors, I think amazing things could happen here. So, sometimes it's just doing a bit of research to see who else might be going,
Hmm.
right? And you go, okay, I want to make sure I get that person in touch with this other person.
Hmm.
Um, or it's a matter of, yeah, just figuring out who might be interesting
Hmm.
based on their background. And then, sometimes it's just easy to pick out somebody who's wearing something amazing, and that's
Yeah.
where you start, and then, yeah, so I think that's a really big part of this. This was actually, it's not something people were talking about last year,
Hmm.
so much as I think this year, with the way the algorithms have changed on LinkedIn, and they really want you to, put stuff out there that people will save that bookmark and come back to it. And I wrote a 6-piece series on the startup scene here in Cleveland, like past, present, future, about over 8,000 words. And, I had been pretty modest on LinkedIn before then, but like and a lot of people were not liking it because I was saying some controversial thing or things they wanted to say out loud, but didn't want to be on the record as being an agreement.
Right. Right.
But yeah, like 40,000 impressions on the last,
Wow.
which for me, that's an awful lot. So
that's great.
Yeah. So it's weird too. Like, people will still come up to me at events I've never seen before. It's like, so what are you writing now? I'm like, wait,
oh, wow.
That thing? Because
that's so great. That's so
great.
That
was fun. And yeah, there's definitely some, dare I say, cycling prospects on that, not quite figuring out what that next job is, but definitely like, okay, take a look at our, it's like just, VC folks, like, hey, we've got all these folks in our portfolio, they could use some help. Let's make sure we talk every few months just to see if there's an opportunity there. So
yeah. Making those good strategic business alliances are really good. Really good. All right. So let's do one more. When you go to a networking event, whether it's a networking event, a chamber event, or an industry specific event, an association, a conference, whatever it is, how do you like to start a conversation with somebody new?
Well, I have a lot of, I guess, emotional investment and, dare I say, punk rock mentality. So sometimes I'm a little disruptive, and I'll ask things like, what do you do for fun?
Yeah.
And some people are totally into it. And some people are just like deer in the headlights, like, oh my God.
Why are you asking me that?
Why are you asking me that? I have already prepared a different pitch, and this is not in the things that I was, but I thought would be the field of the possibles or whatever. So, but the people who like that, man, I mean, you can just really, dare I say, you can lean in close.
Yeah. You really get to know somebody better when you start there instead of starting with business.
Yeah. And I think and again, my business is so much referral. I mean, probably over 95%. And, that's just the way Cleveland and Akron are. Like, we sort of think ourselves as in the same region for the most part.
I think that's true a lot of places. I mean, even here in Charlotte, referrals are gold. Yeah. I mean, you don't go to networking events looking for your next client.
Right.
You just go to get to know people and let them get to know you, and then see where that referral can come from. Yeah.
I think the other thing too, that this is a little bit outside of, the networking event, but, I'm a writer. My days can be a little bit more flexible. And so, if we're getting lunch at, let's say, Market Garden Brewery, I'm just looking across the table. So are we getting a beer today?
Yeah.
And I'll totally follow their lead. Like, I don't want to be the one to pick.
Right.
But, that's kind of a fun thing too, where it's just like, we're just hanging out.
We're just hanging out. Yeah, we're just hanging out, getting to know each other. That's great. Okay. One last question. So how do you follow up? I mean, not follow up, but how do you track? Like, we talked about the Rolodex, but how do you actually keep track of your connections and make sure that you stay top of mind?
So what I like to do is either like right when I get in the car, or, when I get home, I'm using the Google Docs voice speech thing. And I'm just doing a quick, okay, I just talked to Carly. We had a great lunch. She's getting a dog next week, whatever it is, right? And I get that. And then I drop that text into Gemini, because Google and Gemini are paired. And then I drop that into my CRM. And then post a note in there. It's like, follow up in 2 weeks, or, whatever. So I'm not using the CRM to its full power at this point, and my newsletter is not coming from my email, which I know I need to develop at some point.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Heard you say that at least 5 times. So,
yes.
So I know it's got to be true. But yeah, and then I just subscribed to Motion, which is a
Okay.
neat
Mhm.
PM thing. So that's
Mhm.
something I'm hoping will be helpful for me as
Yeah.
well. I will keep you posted. I have,
Yeah.
how dare I say, yeah, go ahead. I'll just say failed over and over again with the paper
Mhm.
planner,
Mhm.
and I'm hoping this will help.
Yeah, CRMs and things like Notion or ClickUp, those are awesome tools if you use them. Uh,
Yes.
Yeah, I know
Like so many
we've all
tools.
failed. Yes, we've all failed. Yeah, we have good intentions, and then it does fall through the cracks. My CRM tells me when I'm supposed to follow up with people based on a cadence that I have
Okay.
previously told it. And it tells me what to do, and I still sometimes fail at doing it. So it's just a process that you just got to create it over time, make it work.
Yes. This
Mhm.
is Motion is supposedly going to be telling me what to do a lot. So
Yeah.
I will try to bring a bit more humility to the app than I have to others. We'll see how it works.
See how it goes. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation, and
Oh,
people can get in touch with you at Cadence Editorial Services. All your information will be in the show notes. But any last words of wisdom from the copywriting guy?
oh, I think so much of this is an act of faith,
Hmm.
right? You have to suspend disbelief that it's not going to work,
Yeah.
and you keep going, and maintain some sort of journal if possible, so you know like where you've been. I
Hmm.
just I just remember leaving or ending up on a road that I hadn't been on in like 4 years in the Cleveland area. And I was like, the last time I was on this, I was leaving a terrible networking experience. And I was just like, what? It was not say an existential crisis, but it was like, what am I doing?
What
What
just
am I going to be
happened?
doing differently? How did I convince myself driving 45 minutes one way was going to be worth it? And the next time I was on the road, I just signed the contract with my angel client and I was going in house and working with an amazing team. I was just like, yeah, these things
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always a reason for everything. Yeah.
Yeah, but also
Hmm.
just like making sure that you don't forget that how much labor you put in. Yes, serendipity
Hmm.
is huge. Obviously, the case with the mountain biking socks
Yeah.
was, just one example of that. But you also create your own luck, right? So
Hmm. Hmm. Who was it that said that luck is preparation and opportunity or something like that? I can't remember
yes.
exactly how it was, but yeah, it's incredible. So, well, thanks for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Melissa. And yes, thanks to your previous guests who've done a nice job and helped set me up for hopefully success on this event.
Great. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Network Build Grow podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow entrepreneur or professional. And of course, if you're not yet part of our community, visit networkbuildgrow.com to connect with us. Until next time, keep building and keep growing.